then it becomes easier. Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and discuss what we did yesterday and what we're going to continue doing today with the alignment principles. So in the AYRx program, what I like to offer is this little cheat sheet. I started doing this just last spring in terms of giving some really clean and clear guidelines about how to approach the Therapeutix. Because there's so many ways that we can use the swing, as you're getting a sense of with the poses. And when somebody comes in, they're usually not going to be asking for a specific pose. They might ask to go upside down. But in general, they're going to talk about a part of their bodies. They're going to talk about an issue they have. Usually their limitations, right? That's the first thing we get to hear about. It's like, oh, I can't do this, or I can't do that, or I'm afraid of this, afraid of that, which is totally fine, or an injury specifically. So it's really nice to be able to not only, while listening to them, identify what part of the body has the limitation. Usually easy, they'll tell you, neck and shoulders, lower back, hips, legs. But if they don't have that type of awareness, then it's really great to just go right to their posture, right to their spine. Notice where their head is. Notice where their pelvis is. Notice if they have a spiral or an external rotation in their upper body and an internal rotation in their lower body. If we just keep it really simple like that, we'll know exactly where to focus and what poses will help them, right? And of course, we can just go through everything we learned 1 through 4, but adding these specific alignment principles into the practice is going to be like earth-shattering for people. Even people who've been practicing other forms of movement for 20-some years, they haven't done it like this or in this piece of equipment or with this vehicle. So yeah, it's really fascinating to see what comes up. And yesterday we talked about the spine, the sternum, the head in particular. We were really focusing on the gaze and our plumb line. That was like our really intense focus. And we started dropping our tailbone even more and feeling the groundedness in the lower body and that dynamic tension with a lot of core activation, working with the pivot point at the hips and getting the torso in a straight line. So when we work on our core, we're actually working on the entire torso, staying in a plank, whether we're horizontal or vertical. And then the last one we worked on a little bit was stacking the bones, and I kept kind of waking up in the middle of the night with all these ideas about stacking the bones, so that was fun. So I wanted to go over again the changing planes with you and what that looks like. So when my arms out are to the side, this is the side plane. This is really obvious. This is the front plane, right? Where I can see my thumbs. And then the back plane is anything behind my head that I can't see, right? So from my arms back is the back plane. Now the front plane is this semicircle in front of me. So when I'm upside down and I tell people to bring their toes to the front plane, 99% of the time they're not going to do it, because when you're upside down, all of a sudden they think the front plane is behind them. The front plane is always where you can see. This might sound so super obvious, but it's good to just talk about it with these specific alignment principles, that this is the front plane. So if you can't see your toes, guaranteed they're not in the front plane, right? So I'm just going to show you again upside down so it'll make sense when we go from back plane, side plane to front plane. And you guys can just watch for this one, just so you can really visualize for yourselves where your body is in space, working with the planes. So right now my toes are in the front plane, right? Yeah. Okay, and then they go out to the side plane. Right? I can still see them, but they're in my peripheral vision, so I would consider this more side plane. Okay, so now when I go upside down, my front plane is here. This is still my side plane, but now my feet are in the back plane. So the plane doesn't stay back there, it moves with my vision, okay? So when I say side plane with my legs and it looks like this, and then I say front plane, and everyone just leaves their toes back there, you can't see them. So keep rotating all the way around until the toes come into the front plane. And then I usually say, either reach up and grab for your toes is a cue, because, that's an easy way to know that they're in the front plane. Or I'll say, look at your toes, which means bring them together. But usually people are like, what do you mean look at your toes when they're back here? Okay, so anything behind your head that you can't see is the back plane. Even when we're upside down, side plane, straight out to the sides, the T, front plane, this semicircle within our vision range. Okay, so that will be really helpful. I woke up thinking about that. I haven't quite explained it exactly like that before. It just seems so obvious, but it's nice to get the visual with the language. So when you're working with people and they're having trouble changing planes, when you get to, that's not a basic class, just FYI, because you're trying to do that with intro people, they'll be very confused. So when you start working with more intermediate level folk and you're wanting to teach them how to change planes, see how it works to explain it like that. It might be easier for them to get it. Front plane is anywhere we can see within this semicircle, and back plane is anything we can't see, which is behind us. And it changes based on our position. Like up is always up and down is always down, right? 12 is always forward and 6 is always back, but the planes change. Okay, was that helpful?
Yes.
Very simple but helpful, right? Okay, and that has a lot to do with stacking the bones and why it is so important that our arms are in a certain plane, right? So I really want to get this particular geometry down in the body of stacking, especially on the vertical plane when we start to get into some handstands, and make sure that we are just so lined up. It's just like, if there's any sort of wiggle or wobble, we're going to completely collapse. And that's what I saw yesterday. Whenever anybody had some trouble, it was because there was a collapse in the lines of energy. And maybe that's just kind of a reflexive thing that people do. But what would happen if we didn't collapse, even if we couldn't go any further? That would be interesting, right? So we can explore things like that today. If it feels right, we can actually do whatever you want. But kind of what I always do, like a mental review in my meditations, and kind of look at okay, maybe there's a way for me to explain that better. Doesn't make me wrong, so that's the thing, is like this same practice of loving more. Could I explain that even better? Is there another way that I could say that? And that's why I like doing this practice where we get out of criticism and judgment, although you went right into criticism when you came out, like I'm no good at this, kind of thing. And it's like, well, no, like we could do it better. We could get better at that. It's just such a different energy. Can you feel there's like a little softness around it then?
Yeah, the same thing as people hear things differently, so changing up how you say it, or people learn differently.
Yeah.
People find calm differently, and I never have. It's not, I don't really feel badly about it. I feel worse for people when they see me like not get into it. My calm is just a different set of actions that,
the point was,
I'm quiet, my mind is noisy. Blah, it just.
Yeah, well, the point is we can, using the language, we can do that better is actually a positive way of looking at it without getting into the judgment around it. That's the example I was giving here. Okay, so today we have 6 more alignment principles that we're going to focus on, and we're going to really focus on the heart today, which is really
Can I
fun.
ask one question about stacking the bones?
Yes,
So,
of course.
I've been to enough yoga classes where people do handstand versions of handstands. I don't practice it enough, so I tend not to participate. Like I'll get down and do it, but I'll do it against the wall.
Yeah.
But when I watch people do handstands, like I understand the stacking of the bones. So do people just have different shaped bones that they can do a handstand and it looks like there's a big curve in the back, or it looks like their shoulders forward, or what? Because they must have to be stacking the bones, right, to stay up?
There are a lot of different bodies out there, for sure. They're all based in sacred geometry, but there are different dimensionalities. Yeah. And then you see a lot of compensation when I'm in a yoga class, because I've been doing handstands like literally my whole life since I was 2, It's been a huge part of my existence, and so my bones kind of grew that way, I believe, or my shoulders open in a certain way. So I don't know what the other people are doing. All I know is that they're out of alignment. They look like they're struggling and muscling it, and it doesn't look effortless to me. And then the people who are stacked, they look amazing. For me, like when I go to Cirque du Soleil or something like that, and you see these people, it's like everything is dialed, and I can read energy. Yeah. So I'm looking at the energy. If the person is like really struggling, the same with running. Let's just switch gears. Have you seen somebody running and you're like, oh, they're just killing themselves right now? Like, it is just a struggle. And it's just like, please don't run. I know like somebody told you should run or that's how you lose weight or something, but they just look like they're torturing themselves. I really feel like handstands or inversions are very similar. And then you see these gazelles that are just like, running, and I'm like, now that's a runner.
Yeah.
There's only a few people that should run. The rest of us should figure out other ways to get exercise. It's my, humble opinion. And it's the same with handstands, but the way that I show how to do handstands in the swing is so fun and so exciting and so easy. And all we have to do is remember to straighten our arms and keep them straight, because if we bend our elbows, we're gonna face plant. It's really just that simple. And if we can retrain our bodies, particularly what we've been working on, it's just gonna be a whole nother world. And then the rest will come because the swing is gonna hold us and show us, and we'll feel where the alignment is, we'll feel where it's off. It's so cool to have that experience. So yeah, stacking the bones is like a big deal. And if we don't get that down, then we really shouldn't be doing any inversions at all. That's my personal philosophy, unless it's a supported headstand, which is what we do in our beginner. Anyone can do a supported headstand because you're not really doing anything. You're basically in a forward fold with your feet up, which is great. I mean, that's enough for most people. I don't actually want them to be supporting their weight. I want the swing to be supporting their weight so they can feel the stretch and the hang. But then when we start engaging, when we get more into the advanced practice and do more of we'll just say the flips. I call them high flyers, the high flyers and handstands and stuff. We want to wait until it's absolutely exhilarating and fun, and there's like way less struggle than we would experience like today. So we're just inching our way into the more advanced practices. And as soon as you get the alignment principles, that's when we start taking off and doing the more complicated poses or the more refined poses. And until then, we just stay exactly where we are. And I think that's it. Like even doing handstand against the wall, I honestly don't recommend it. It just basically, people just flail themselves up against the wall, and it's just this big bang, and then they flail themselves down, and I don't know, it just never looks that great to me. And there's other ways to learn, and the swing is one of the best ways. Obviously I'm biased, but I've also heard other people say this, so we'll try that. We'll try a little bit today. Okay, so we're really going to focus on the heart. That's number 4 down from the alignment principles.
Lead with the heart.
Lead with the heart, and the heart-centered practice, and that's why I just got this impetus to share this meditation that I do every day, and just take a moment to ground and center and breathe and be present. And so when we focus on the heart, so this is a band of energy, okay? There are no parts anymore. There's no compartmentalizing the body. We're not components, right? It's like the heart is a band of energy around the body when we get into our spherical nature. So whenever we work with the heart, then we're working with the upper thoracic spine, and then we're working with the lats, and our wings. So the wings are such an interesting kind of neglected part of the body that since it's back there and nobody actually sees them, because they're in the back plane, they're just kind of back there. And I noticed that people's wings are really pulled off their back, right? And what happens when we put our wings on our back? Can you just try that while you're sitting here? Put your wings on your back. Whatever that means to you. Did you ever notice that birds kind of fold their wings on their back and they have this cute little puffed out chest thing that they do? It's really adorable. And we see, there's birds everywhere. We hardly ever pick up on that and be like, oh, my wings on my back. So that's something that I want us to consider ongoingly, whether we're in the swing or not, but what that feels like to put our wings on our back. And then our wings are not up by our ears. Our wings are pulling down towards I want to call it the navel. The navel's in the front, but the navel goes to the back too.
Yeah.
So that area. So it's all pulling towards the center line. So I would say the shoulder blades are usually sitting like this on people, top tips, bottom tips, right? Kind of pulling in towards center, and they're actually going to start to do that. So the bottom tips of the shoulder blades are going to touch, not really, but in that direction. And it feels so different, and it's all about the lats. When that happens, so Barbara, I want you to watch, when that happens, the elbows pull in towards the body. So if you're ever in a position and you find your arms all the way out like that, that means your wings are off your back. And you'll hear me say, pull your elbows in nice and tight. And that's another shortcut to get the wings on the back. Okay, so let's focus on those things today because they're really helpful. Okay, Now we're gonna stand up and play with the shoulder loop. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, but the spirals are one of the things that I really, is this good, guys? Are you happy starting with just chat?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good. Figured we'd give everybody a moment to land, and then we'll still get in the swing, and we'll probably go until about 3:30, have like a half-hour break, and then do the same thing that we did yesterday, do an hour and a half, and then break, and then an hour and a half kind of deal until we're done, whatever combination that looks like.
Okay.
And we'll talk about it once we're on our next break. Okay, so to get the wings on the back and to get the shoulders externally rotated, the way that I do this, and I'm just going to rotate towards the camera sometimes too, is I take my thumbs and I put them up. So when I put my thumbs up, I'm going to start to rotate them to the back of the room. So I want you to walk forward so you have plenty of room so you're away from the swing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, and so I want you to go ahead and actually stand in front of Deborah, and you guys are going to face each other doing this. Yeah, good. So kind of do what you did, Deborah. Do it again. Yeah. And so I want you to do that, Barbara. Can you mimic her?
Yes.
Yeah. So where are her elbows?
They're out to the side.
Well, they're up.
Oh.
Yeah. So and then pull your shoulders down the back, and then pull your thumbs back and push your elbows forward. Yes. So can you see that her arms are stacked? Her elbows are in line with her wrists?
Yes.
Can you do that? Yes. Now pull your elbows towards her again. Yes. Okay. So what I love about this practice, if you guys don't mind us using each other, is when we mimic one another, we can feel it differently in the body. Okay. So pull your elbows forward even more and push your thumbs back. Elbows forward, thumbs back. Yeah. So it's straight, stacked, elbows forward, thumbs back. Yes. Beautiful. That's an external rotation. Do you feel the difference?
Yes.
Yes. Now come back over here and see if you can keep that. Thank you. So you guys were doing two different things, and I just wanted to kind of talk about those specific alignment principles. So when we're in parts of the swing, I will often say pull your elbows down and push your hands up. That's why I want your thumbs by your ears, right? Yeah. And then when we push our elbows forward like that, we're kind of pushing the bottom tips of the shoulder blades into the back. And just notice, before we did those adjustments, your elbows were kind of flaring back, which means your thumbs are coming down more chest level. And feel this. This is when the shoulders close. Can you guys get what I mean by shoulders close? And now if we hang in this position, we're going to pull on the muscles when the shoulders are closed. Not exactly what we're going for. It happens, it's not a big deal. But notice when we pull our thumbs up and we push our elbows forward, and then we feel our arms pulling apart, what happens to the chest? Can you guys feel the expansion in the chest? Even more, push your elbows towards me. Yeah, so not like losing the T. It's like this, like that. Push your elbows towards me, like this. So keep a T.
Yeah.
Now, well, I would stop saying it if you were doing it. Just look towards your elbows if you're not sure where the T is. Because you keep going like that.
Okay.
Yeah, keep the side plane the whole time. Push the elbows forward and pull the thumbs back. Even more. So you well, yeah. Come here. Wait, let me finish the adjustment first. I'm like, you just walked away. I was like, so it's like that. Okay? Yeah. Now go ahead and look in the mirror. Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that different?
Yes.
Okay. We're not done yet. Stay with me. Okay. So we push our elbows forward, we pull our thumbs back, staying in the side plane. Look if you're not sure. If you do this, then you've lost it because your chest closed. So this is the shoulders open. This is the external rotation. Okay, our shoulders do not move. We're gonna pull our elbows to the sides of the body, right? And then we're gonna let our arms come down, palms up. Keep your shoulders exactly as they are. Now at the elbow crease, we're gonna turn our hands down. Just the elbows, turn our hands down. That's it. Our shoulders stay in exactly the same position, okay? Most people, when they turn their hands down, they completely relax their shoulders. So we keep our shoulders rolling back and down, and then we let our hands be neutral. So it comes from the elbow crease. So another way of saying it is our elbows creases stay facing forward. Yeah, just slightly. Yeah, okay? That's different. Now we have to do all that in the swing, in the poses, right? That's how you get your wings on your back. Can you guys feel the difference? Can you guys keep the crown of the head lifted towards the sky while we do all this? Yeah, just notice if the head stays jutting out when we do all the shoulder stuff, then we have to go back and get the head, which happens most of the time because in this position, now you push the back of your head into this invisible wall. Just the back of your head. Everything else stays exactly the same. Yeah. Awesome. And I want you to play with, so just pay attention to the thumbs. It's the easiest way to do it. Your thumbs are pointing to the back of the room. Your thumbs are pointing to the front of the room. See what happens to your shoulders. So this is internally rotated. This is externally rotated. Okay, go to the edges. Internally rotate, externally rotate. Now I do this in the swing. Let's just do it because it's fun so you can feel what I'm talking about. So I usually do this, we'll do some full body hang today. We're just gonna use one leg loop, one hand hold with a wrist wrap. Okay, step into a triangle pose, let your left toes come out to the side. Okay, so I'm gonna roll my thumb towards the back of the room. What is this? Externally rotated, yeah. And then I can roll my thumb the other way, all the way, internally rotated.
This is even a good exercise, just this.
Of course, yeah.
To do
AYRx, yeah. This is not an AYP class, because people will be like, oh, really?
Yeah.
We're gonna just rotate our thumb for a half hour?
Long.
Yeah, it's really good. Let's try the other side. Now, especially while hanging, so we're tractioning the joint, this is incredibly therapeutic, okay, for the shoulders. So wrist wrap, triangle pose, externally rotate first, so rotate your thumb towards the back of the room. So you're hanging into it, remember your shoulder, and then you're gonna go ahead and roll your thumb the other way, all the way, all the way. Right? And then externally rotate. Notice the limitation there, or notice the crickiness, or whatever it is.
It's amazing.
It's different. It's really different. And this will heal any shoulder injury to get the full range of motion while tractioning. I can feel it all the way down to my forearm because I do so much work with my arms that my forearm's like, thank you, stretch in a totally different way. And I pop and snap and crackle all the time. Okay, good. Great. Fantastic. So next time, and we're going to go back into the swing soon, because the first pose I think of is butterfly, right? This applies to every single pose. But the idea of coming into flexed position and archer, right? Because we can do archer now. It's okay for us to review everything, every single pose. And if we haven't done a pose yet, then we're going to do it. Like we're going to do a whole thing with X Factor after we play with these a little bit. Okay, so I kept saying in butterfly, make sure you flex, right? Flex is where your thumbs come all the way up to your ears, push your elbows forward, open your chest. This immediately gets the bottom tips of the shoulder blades kind of poking towards the center of the heart, the sternum. And your chest flares out. Your chest could flare out more, both of you guys.
By pushing my...
Let your chest flare out a little bit more. Yeah. Lift your chest, lift your sternum. Pull your shoulders down and lift your chest. It's like a belly dancing move. You just pop. Yeah, it's just like a little sternum pop. Don't know how else to describe it. It's like a little that people do. Okay, and that's going to get your shoulders on your back. So I'll often say these postures, even chillaxin arms, right? That's why you pull your shoulders back in a way. It's doing the same external rotation. Correct? Yeah. It's kind of a cheater because then, doesn't really matter if they're doing it right and they get to support their head, and the idea is they're pressing the back of their head into their hands if they're doing it right. And it's like, even this is an amazing stretch. Can you feel the stretch in the nerves now? So we're going to learn, which we didn't do much of previously. We'll end with some yoga massage today. It'll be really nice. We're going to learn how to pull up and out through the back of the neck. So the arms are not passive in this pose. So we interlace our fingers, and I believe this is one of them. Hold on. Yes, the last one. I'm just bopping down to number 12. Support the head with interlaced fingers, elbows wide, lift up and out on a diagonal in chillaxin arms. Okay, and we'll go over these slowly in the poses. So my hands are right at the occipital ridge, right where my skull and neck meet. So most people don't know what the occipital ridge is, so you pause, like your hands are a little too high. Thank you. Okay, so they're right here, and then they're gonna pull up, straight up towards the sky, right? Can you feel that little hook, especially with your thumbs? So it's here, up, like really. So straight up, so keep your chin level. Yeah, straight up, up, yeah. Does that feel amazing, just even like that? Yes? Okay. So after straight up, Then when you lean back, it's up and out in a pose like chillaxin, up and out. So most people point the crown of the head towards the back wall. You're actually aiming for the top back corner. So for you guys, top back corner. So your body is on this beautiful diagonal. The same with, let's actually just do it and pause right now because I'm very excited. The same with the supported back bends. Let's all face the curtain. Put the swing behind our back. Make sure the swing's in a good position to get started for you. 10 and 2. And let's just practice just the chillaxin arms here, and we will get into the full chillaxin pose. So make sure you have a really strong clasp. The other things people do is they like to get their little fingertips and put it on their head. No, we really want to get a nice strong platform, like the fatty part of the thumb is really hooking the occipital ridge. Elbows are pulling apart, and then you're pulling up and out, up and out. Make sure the swing is right behind the sternum. Stay there so I can give you assist. Because this is how I do the yoga touch. That's much better, Barbara. We've been working together on this. It's amazing. So this is the pose, up and out, just like that. And so I come around and I hook my thumbs on your jawline, and I pull straight up and out. That looks really good. I'm just going to give you a little bit more lift. That's the angle, though. How's that feel? Is that amazing? Yeah, keep your chin lifted just slightly. Yeah, that's it. There you go. Now the crown of the head is pointing to the back top corner. Now, just go ahead and drop into the U shape that most people do in this pose, right?
Drop into it.
Yeah, just let your head relax into your hands like people normally do in a supported back bend, and come into the U shape. Legs are straight. Do it the wrong way. Yeah, and so you can see when I say the crown of the head is pointing towards the back wall. Yeah, so that is actually starting to flare out the ribs, and it'll eventually strain the neck and the lower back. And that's why we want to get this nice big lift and pull. And this is why it's so great to do a little hands-on and do the yoga massage with people too, so they can feel that. And then I usually let go and they collapse again, and I'm like, okay, no, keep that lift, right? So once they start to feel it in the body, they're like, oh, and they get this amazing length, right? Gain so much length there. Okay, great. So that was a good visual. So shoulder loop.
I can feel a difference in my arms since I've been doing this.
Totally. Yeah, so most people are walking around unplugged. Do you guys know what I mean by unplugged? I know I use this language, but unplugged means their shoulders are not actually in the sockets. The same with their hips. They're walking around unplugged. You can usually tell because they're low energy. You can usually tell because they have an injury. You can usually tell because their posture sucks. You can usually tell because, it's everything to get plugged in. So plugging in is getting the wings on the back, externally rotating the shoulders, pulling the lats down the back, and making sure that you have that loop. That's plugged in. Can you feel the difference? Can you see the difference? Then unplugged, plugged, unplugged. Let's do the same thing with our arms when we're stacking the bones, because everybody was unplugged yesterday when we did some of the poses, but I already was giving you so much information. I was like, I'm not going to even do the plugs right now. It's like, brain explode. Arms straight out in front of you. This is unplugged. Plugged, unplugged. So don't be afraid to unplug now after I'm done. Plugged, unplugged. Okay? Get your wings on your back, even if your arms are straight out in front of you, right? Same thing here. Unplugged, plugged. Unplugged, plugged. So just try it. Yes. Unplugged, plugged. Now notice how unplugged you were yesterday in some of these poses, because I didn't even go over that yet, because I was like, tomorrow we will do the alignment. Huge difference. So when people are doing handstands and they're unplugged, that's when they're unstable and they're wobbling all over the place and everything. If you're plugged in like that, you're not moving. It's just like, boom, yeah. So the same with the hips. Usually the hips are flared out. I'm exaggerating only slightly. Pelvis pushed forward, externally rotating the legs, collapsing into it. Like that's the normal posture that people have, right? So plugging in with the lower body is really about, I want you to close your eyes for a second and feel this. It's really about the hip bones coming towards one another so that the pubic bone can rock back and down, and then the tailbone can push towards the pubic bone. Just start to feel that in your pelvis and what happens to your pelvis. If the hip bones move towards one another, the front hip bones towards one another. It's like most people never think about their hip bones moving towards one another. I know I don't without learning all this in Anusara. So I did like an Anusara training in like 2003, and by that time I already had been doing like 10 years of yoga, and I was like, well, I don't know how to do yoga. Like clearly I've been doing everything completely wrong, mainly because I was so unplugged. It was all just about getting as far as possible in the poses, getting your foot over your head and all that, because I grew up doing gymnastics, so it was really easy for me to be hypermobile, which led to loose joints and a lot of injuries. So engaging and stacking and pulling everything back in, including, because the flare in the back is the same issue, right? The flare in the back is the duck, and it's like too much arch and not enough tuck. So it like allows everything to pull in. It's a spiral in here towards the navel, and it's a spiral out here towards the back body simultaneously. This is how the double tetrahedron, or the two triangles, the two pyramids, come together for the Merkaba field. But we'll get into that with the sacred geometrics, and then module 3, which is coming next year. Okay. So to internally spiral the legs and all the poses, the first thing we do is get our toes pointing forward. Not so much pigeon toe anymore. We're just going to push our heels out away from one another. Just without moving your feet, just push them out. So when we're in something like this with the wide straddle, and I say push out, push into your outer heel, that is doing the internal spiral for us. And then we have to do the work instead of ducking, right? Really letting the tailbone get involved and pulling up. So we'll work with some of the legs again, the half Buddha sequence and things like that. I'm going to do the turning of the feet and the whole spiraling. Most people, since they externally spiral, do pigeon, but as soon as people try to internally spiral to do the quad, they freak out. This is just, it has not been a part of their reality. So all morning, I'm standing in line, getting some breakfast, doing this, and everyone's like, oh, you're stretching. I'm like, always. I mean, if you want to call this stretching, I'm internally and externally spiraling my hip, and I don't know why you guys aren't following along right now. I'm like, come on, just get up onto the toes and feel it, internal, external, without moving your whole body, because your whole body's moving. Just right here, isolated, yeah. So yeah, I was like, huh, look at that, there it is. A little sticky in there, It's a little sticky in there, and until we're in, without walking around, like this or something, like, can we really feel the balance between this part, and the same with the external rotation and the internal rotation? Are they even? How are they feeling? They need to play with it, and the swing is such a great element or material to interact with that way. Okay, so we're going to do a lot of that today. First, we're just going to focus on, let me make sure I covered everything. So legs, internal spiral, spread the sacrum. So when I ask you to push out through your heels, can you guys feel your sacrum? Your sit bones pulling apart. So if your hip bones in the front are going to come towards one another, your sit bones are going to pull apart. Like, I don't know about you, but I know for me, like the whole English, like tight ass thing, where, it was almost like I had one leg. It was like everything was just pulling in towards center. And I thought that was normal. I thought that's how posture was. And then when somebody was like, spread your sit bones, I was like, oh. Now I'm like spreading my sit bones all the time, And it is like amazing how it creates two legs. It allows there to be a pillar in between your legs, right? And so there's actually like, just think of it as like 3 legs then, right? Where this big pillar can come down through the tailbone then. If our sit bones spread, it's like opening up a little portal at our base chakra. How does that feel?
Great.
Yeah. That will plug the hip bones back into the socket. So usually the hip bone slides out of the socket and is pinching the glutes, So it's like slid back too far, and that's the whole piriformis thing and all of that. You guys familiar with the anatomy? These words? Okay, good. Pretty basic, but there's like pictures of all the muscles and everything in the book. But yeah, you can link to all kinds of articles and things like that as well. Great. So the last part that goes, the only one that I'm coming back to now, and legs is going to be its own thing, right? Because we're still mainly focusing on the heart. But the arch from the upper thoracic spine and focusing on the upper back for our back bends. It all just goes together, but I do like to just give that its own special tag, because the arch at the thoracic spine, which we talked about yesterday, so the curvature of the spine, curves at the lumbar, curves at the cervical. The thoracic usually is concave, like more than needs to be for most people. And that's the part that the swing pushes on. That's the part that pulls your head back. That's the part that allows you to go deeper into a back bend. That's the part where people have the most stickiness and pain, mainly because their heart has been closed. So as soon as we move into a heart opening practice and we put our shoulders back and we get our wings on our back, the upper thoracic spine is like the main attraction or the main pivot point for coming into our back bends. Okay, so we use the pivot point in our tower for the hips when we do all the flips and all the strengthening poses, and we use the pivot point behind our heart at our thoracic spine to initiate all of our back bends. So those are the two hubs that I focus on. Okay, so does it feel good to go into chilaxin and work with these things? And then butterfly, does anybody else have a request for a pose right now? Because we're gonna cycle through all of them and most of them. We'll do this until about 3:30. We'll have a little break and we're gonna come back and incorporate X Factor, full body hang, training wheels. And then if we're up for it, we're gonna go back into what I call that shoulder sequence and revisit some of the forward folds, and the forward folds can take us into handstands if we want. And then the last bit of the day will be our yoga massage, which will be really fun when we get our hands on each other. Okay, no requests in particular for poses, just focusing on the heart right now. So okay, heart, sternum, lats, shoulders, arch from the thoracic spine. Awesome. And then head. Arms. Great. Yeah, so that's a lot. That's plenty. Let's keep this door closed after we use the restroom.
Yeah,
Let's make it automatic. No problem. Cool. So from our sumo, and we're obviously going to incorporate all 12 principles. Thank God there's only 12, right? So let's keep the ones that we learned yesterday, but really focus on our attention on our heart. Yesterday, a lot of our attention was on our head, and I'll keep reminding you about your gaze, but really let's bring our awareness to our heart space. You know, and then that, of course, incorporates the wings, because it's not just the front of the heart, it's the entire band of energy or the sphere around the heart, the bubble or ball. Okay, so we're coming into our sumo. See if you can keep the heart lifted in all the poses, even here. So when we come into 10 and 2, and we slide in, notice where the sternum is, notice the hips dropping. Of course, even with our knees open, we can still internally rotate the pelvis, internally rotate the legs and get the pelvis, but keep our knees open. So that's the thing, is when people sit cross-legged, then they immediately go like blah. You know, even with the knees open, you can still deepen in the hip creases and plug the hips in. So that's a really clever one to work on. Usually there's one hip that's tighter than the other, and so we do these tiny little belly dancing moves and micro movements in the AYRx quite a bit. So the push, our hands are pushing strongly forward. Notice what happens when we do that. You know, notice your lats, maybe do a little shoulder shrugs. See if you can let them lift and then pull them down and see the difference between engaged and relaxed. Really good. So in all these poses, as soon as we bring the alignment principles in, they get pretty intense. You don't have to do a whole lot to feel a whole lot in the body. Really good. And we always pull up through the inner arch. See if you can connect to the inner arches of the feet at the same time. Funny. Okay, hug the swing. As soon as we hug the swing, we're still pulling down with our lats. Just notice even there, we can get a little lazy, and we're gonna stay hooked. Then we grab for the leg loop. This is why we pull the arms down. Yeah, that's it. Pull the arms straight and down. And then we're gonna pick up the right knee using our core. Get the foot in there. Leg loop goes behind the knee for chillaxing. And then second step, side. Stay engaged through the shoulders, keeping the heart lifted. Head in line with the body. Tailbone heavy. See if you can get your tailbone even more heavy here. And just notice if it was trying to float away. And can you get that a new relationship to your pubic bone? Most people never even use the word pubic bone. When I started teaching using the word pubic bone, I was like, well, this is really awkward. But now we know where our pubic bone is. See if you can get a sense of it, right? It's amazing how deep you need to go in the hip flexors in order to get that grounding. So what I do is I create, there you go, help it out. Give it a little push. Don't be afraid to touch your pubic bone, guys. Yeah, that's right. And maybe it's just locked into position because the hip flexors are so tight, right? So I usually do a little swagger where I push one knee down and then the other knee down. So everybody is looking good. If our knees are below our chest, then they're in a good position. If they're higher than the chest, it's going to be hard to deepen in the hip flexors. So for new people in particular, I bring the leg loops a little bit lower than the chest. So I'm actually going to bring your leg loops down. Take one leg loop out at a time, and we're going to adjust things for you. You can stay seated. And just notice if this helps a little bit, letting your pubic bone drop. Yeah. Good. And I put my leg loops I put my leg loops extra low today just to kind of give you that visual. And then we can always bring them up one. So everyone asks, where do you put the swing in the leg loops? And I always say it is a personal choice whether you play higher or lower. Can you see how my leg loops are lower than my chest? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's better. You can even bring them down one more and experiment like that. Yours look good too, but you wouldn't want to bring them any higher.
No.
You can always bring them lower, but don't bring them higher than the chest.
This feels better in my tailbone.
Yes, it lets you drop because most people are so tight in their hip flexors that deepening or letting them soften is really what needs to happen. Is uncomfortable. They're not used to this. There's no position where we actually sit like this, right? Wouldn't it be nice on the bus? Everyone's in their little swing. Just have to stop. I would like it. Anyhow, okay. So now we have to incorporate the upper body. So let's really focus on our chillaxing arms that pull up and out, right? So interlace the fingers like tight. Get them right behind the occipital ridge. Let the nape of the thumbs hook the ridge. Hook that little hub there. And then you're pulling straight up and out like you're on a diagonal, pointing the crown of the head to the top corner of the room. And just let that feel good. Just take a moment to pull as hard as you can, as comfortable as you can. And get some space in there. Sometimes I'll do a little wiggle from side to side where I lift one elbow and then the other elbow, it's almost like I'm wiggling the occipital ridge up in order to get a little bit more space. So your chest is pointing up towards the sky because you're lifting your sternum and your head is relaxed back into your hands, but you're not collapsed anywhere. Can you guys feel that?
Yes.
Yeah, so different. That looks great. It's just kind of challenging to teach it like this the first day when I'm just trying to teach you the poses. That's why when we go back and revisit them, they're like completely different poses, right? That looks beautiful. And everybody is hanging their pelvis way better now. So now you have that dynamic tension, right? Of the hips really dropping and then the heart lifting. So you're pulling up and out and having gravity do the rest of the work. You don't have to really focus on pushing the hips down once they're relaxed. Gravity will do that for you. Can you feel that? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Make sure that your chin is level with the earth, even if you're leaning back. You keep that same angle. It's kind of like an L shape. So most people are either lifting their chin too much or tucking their chin in too much. So just be aware of where your chin is. You can lift your chin just slightly, Deborah, just slightly. That's better. And just notice what that feels like. Notice what happens to the occiput when you lift your chin slightly. Okay. And then we add some swagger from side to side with all of that lift, with the elbows pulling apart and flaring wide, externally rotating the shoulders, pulling the bottom tips of the shoulder blades together. And even here, what would it feel like to engage your lats? Just slightly, just pulling your lats down the back. So it's in and down with the shoulder blades. Beautiful. All right, so let's try the bottom tips of the shoulder blades. Shake it out, because that is a lot. Arm strength is gonna come. Like, I don't really focus as much on like building muscle, because you've noticed that we've done like 100 bicep curls in every class, because like, if we just do push-ups and pull-ups and sit-ups like every day, we're pretty covered. So your strength is going to come in the upper body by doing this. Just even here, engage your lats more. Yeah, engage your lats. That's it. So that gives you that nice V shape in the body. Let's push the leg loops down to our ankles. We're going to hop around and do the poses in a random order. Unless you have requests, we can do them in the same order that I have them in the manual. Which is usually how I teach it. I just feel like let's just be kind of inspired and spontaneous. So same thing here. Hips, tailbone, pubic bone, pressing down, sternum lifting up, externally rotating the shoulders, lifting up and out through the crown of the head, elbows pulling apart, bottom tips of the shoulder blades pulling in and down. How does that feel?
Amazing.
Yeah.
A little harder, obviously.
A little harder, yeah. It's a different pose. Yeah, good. So your gaze is up towards the sky, Barbara.
I was watching my feet.
I know. Then you lost the pose.
Because it's interesting, I have a lot of body awareness to my knees, but then from the knees down.
Uh-huh.
That's
Those
why
things just
you were
hanging
saying
off.
to me yesterday,
Yeah.
find your legs,
And
find your legs. It's like,
toes, especially your pinky toe. Like get your
Yeah.
pinky toe attached to your
it's
body.
interesting.
Okay, so shake it out whenever you need a break. And then bring the bottoms of the feet together. Glue the feet together. So we have this nice diamond shape. Reach up as high as you can on the leg loops. Okay, so arms are straight. Shoulder distance, obviously, but keep reach for your leg loops, not the swing. There's only one other option. Around and grab. Yeah, always keep your hook. Press your feet together. Lift your hips and lean back, right? So arms are straight, plug your shoulders in, even here. So try unplugging and then plugging and see if you can feel the difference. So pull the bottom tips of the shoulder blades together, externally rotate your biceps, and then pull the lats down the back and feel how different that is. Okay, come to sit. Let's try it one more time. Why don't you guys just watch and just kind of get those cues, because it's huge.
Okay.
All right, and just watch what happens. I'll even turn around so you can see what happens with my chest in this pose, because most people are just leaning back, and that's fine. You know, it's at least the shape of the pose. But I'll come around and put some hands on as well, which I'm happy to do. So when I reach up, I hold on tight. My hands don't slide, number one. So straight arms, I lean back, I pull the bottom tips of the shoulder blades together, externally rotate my biceps, and engage my lats. Did you guys see what happened? Totally different. Unplugged, plugged. Feels amazing on the neck and shoulders. Right? And so I'm not kinking my neck, I'm not tucking my chin into my chest. I'm keeping a nice long line of energy, even if I'm arched. Okay? So that moves the arch to the upper thorax, so the back. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and take that from the beginning, and I'm going to come around and help you externally rotate and lift. Reach up as high as you can. Don't move your hands. Reach up all the way, all the way, all the way. Yeah. So glue your feet together. Arch and lean back. Push your hips up. Press, press, press. Bottom tips of the shoulder blades squeeze together. Yes, that's it. You feel the difference?
Yes.
Yes. It's really intense then. That's it. Beautiful. Come on down and relax. Whew. How did that feel?
Really great. Like the hands-on is so, for me, just, I don't know.
Yeah, even if you go halfway on your own, when someone else is like, it's like,
I know.
wow.
It's like, wow.
It is a wow. Yeah. How did that feel from when you did it yesterday? Did you guys notice the difference?
Yeah.
And it's okay to just get the shape of the poses yesterday, but now it's like, oh, These are completely different
I can
poses.
feel the
Yeah.
sacred geometry
Yeah.
more now
Good.
than I did before.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Well, we're getting into the spirals of the body. We're getting into the spherical nature and the multidimensional nature. So it is really different, but that was great. I just like to kind of even more give your body permission, because what happens there is your chest completely puffs out then, right? Then you get this amazing stretch through the neck. Okay, great.
Should we do it one more time?
Yeah, of course. As many times as you want. Really find it.
Yeah.
Find, like, the thing is the hands cannot slide down.
Yeah.
As soon as you lose the grip, you've lost the pose. And that's usually where I see people, they just do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes right into your lower back.
Okay.
And they're completely collapsed. Sometimes I'll even climb up and grab onto the nub. Because once I have the nub in my hand, just one side, then I can really pull and lift. It feels amazing. But you can hold on wherever, but once your hands are there, lock them in. And then really get the squeeze and lift. Keeping the knees open, making sure the back of the neck is long, like your chilaxin arms are there, pulling you up and out. And right now it's down. It would be down and over, but yes. Beautiful, guys. Yeah, let's give that a little rest. We're gonna come back to it unless you guys have another pose that you'd like to play with that. We're gonna plug in and come down to forward folds, but while we're here, like I said, I'm just bopping around in spontaneity, but I do wanna do the internal and external rotation of the legs and just give the shoulders a little break, because that was a lot. We got it, right? Supported back bend, chilaxin, flying monkey. Those three are huge for rearranging the shoulders.
That last one was flying monkey?
Yeah. With the feet together, reaching up. Let's go ahead and bring our knee down to the center of the mat. Let's go with the left knee. And we're gonna play with internal and external rotation. So right now, with my right leg straight out, I have just a little bit of play. So into the side plane, 9 and 3. See if you can find 9 and 3 first of all. It might feel like 9:30, but it's okay. Crown of the head pointing towards the sky. We're gonna just internal and externally rotate the leg. You're not gonna go very far. Flex all the toes back, all of them. Internal and external rotation. Don't move the body at all. Just let it be from the hip joint. It's gonna be kind of like a half an inch, maybe 2 inches at most. Can you guys feel what's going on in there?
Yes.
So it's not going to be a whole lot. Let's try the other leg. Let's just do this tiny little alignment principle all by itself in a micro movement. I like micro movements quite a bit in the swing.
I love
My clients sometimes are like, okay, what are we doing right now? Like, just calm down. We're going to get to the flips. So even here, 9 and 3, knee in the center of the mat. So when my toes point back, that's external rotation. When my toes rotate in, that's internal rotation. Okay, even the arm that is in the leg loop is pressing down, and engage. Pull the lats down the back even more. Lats down the back. That's it. Yeah. Notice that we're focusing on one part, the rest of the alignment principles go out the window, right? Can we start to marry them all, where some of them can be automatic? Yeah, and most people here are just kinking their hip out to the side. Can it really just come from the joint? If it comes from the joint, remember to flex all the toes back forever. There you go. When it comes from the joint, you're really going to feel it be like, there's going to be a sensation in there, which is what we want. This is what helps prevent hip replacements and things like that have gotten really popular these days.
Dime a dozen.
Yeah, these little micro movements are going to save a lot of hips. Okay? Okay. So come on back in. Let's go back to the first leg. We're going to make the movement a little bit bigger now that we kind of figured out what we're doing. Give it a hop, whatever you need to find your alignment. This time when we take the left foot out, we're going to have it in a half sumo and half sumo, 10 and 2, right? So toes come to the front of the mat for 10 and 2. Pull your toes forward, yes. Not past, yeah. So we use the shape of the mat to make sure that we're keeping our right angle. So my tailbone is facing straight down. If your pubic bone is facing me, then that means that you lost the alignment, right? And that's the first thing that happens is people do this. So we really want to drop there, keep the right angle here. And then we can give it a little hop whenever you need, but make sure you're pulling down the back. Let's actually use our forearm press now so that we can try and keep the dynamic tension in the spine. We're going to pull the foot in to the front line and then externally rotate. Yes. Then we're going to press the foot to the side plane and internally rotate. Even the toe, even the pinky side is going to flex back. Just try and see if you can work with that. So, externally rotate, front plane, internally rotate, side plane. Yeah, let it come from the hip like we did before, even though we're creating a bigger movement. Now, yesterday I called it wag the tail, right? Where we just did this. You get in the swing and you just kind of lubricate the hip joint. Now when we do the AYRx program, we're getting very specific about the alignment and the movement and the directions, especially paying attention to the toes and where the hips are. Can you guys feel that? Yeah, it's so amazing. Especially right here. That internal rotation here, drop your pubic bone even more. Yeah, use your hands if you're not sure. So you're all kinked out to the side. Square the hips a little bit more. Yeah, let it come from the hip joint. It's gonna kink out a little bit, really let it drop. Yeah. Shoo! Such good stuff. Yeah, just give it a wag. All right, let's try that on the other side. Okay. Just practicing internal and external rotation. No, nothing to see here. So when we bring the foot to the front plane, we externally rotate. When we bring the foot to the side plane, we internally rotate. See if we can keep our other foot in a half sumo and just let it come from the hip crease. Paying attention to the position of our pubic bone. So we might not go as far, right?
It's very different.
Keeping the foot flexed as much as possible is really helpful, so that way it's not twisting the knee, but it is actually letting the spiral go all the way up to the hip. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Deborah, flex a little bit more, get that foot attached. Yeah, because this is the injured side, so there might be a little disconnect there, yeah. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be a big movement, just an inch is enough. If you get 2 inches, fantastic, but just notice that if we just keep it out here and we turn, we don't get very much, so we're not gonna get a whole lot with this big swag added. External rotation is usually a lot more abundant than the internal rotation because we just never do this movement. So usually I hang out here. So Deborah, just work with me a little here with the fingers. So put your left fingers into your hip crease and literally spiral it down towards the ground. Yeah, there you go. It really helps to get a little hand in there. Give it a little hand sometimes. And we're just not used to that relationship to the inner trochanter psoas attachment going across the hip flexor into the belly, how it attaches to the pubic bone there. Whew, really good, guys. Okay, let's go ahead and windshield wiper a little from side to side just to reset. Give your back a little break. Pop it out whenever you need.
It's warm in here today. Can you open the garage?
The door's open. I can.
Is the garage door open?
Yeah, we can turn the air on. The fans are on.
Oh, and
Yeah.
the door's open? Oh, it is. Wow. It's
Yeah.
hot out.
I'm like, I'm chilly, but I won't say
Yeah,
anything. No one needs to hear about my temperature weirdness. I mean, I did just spend all summer in Hawaii, so I'm all like, brr. Everyone's like, okay, shut up. Push the tailbone down. Lift the sternum up. Pull up on the occipital ridge, right? Lift up and out. Elbows pull apart. Chest lifted with the lats pulling down the back. So see if you can find this internal and external spiral of the legs as you sway from side to side. Only if it feels good. Add that into your windshield wipers. Oh, that feels amazing. Let it trip. So like all the toes can go in one direction and then all the toes can go in the other direction while you sway from side to side.
Yeah.
That's it, Deborah. Flex the toes back until you get the note from Jesus, especially the pinky toe. Bring your pinky toe along.
I'm really trying.
Well, just do it. Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how the lines of energy are so controlled by the position of our feet. The lines of energy of the legs. Okay, good. So now we're going to do the an external rotation with pigeon. Come back to a half sumo with the left foot. Right knee bends in. So this is externally rotated, right? We're going to grab with both hands. Just give it a little hop if you need. Don't be afraid to adjust, okay? Externally rotate, internally rotate. Just play with that. Just with the bent knee. Try to keep the toes flexed back, even if we're pulling on the foot. Okay? Hang out at the edges. Then what we're going to do is we're going to keep rotating. We're going to internally rotate the knee all the way over. Nope, go back. I want you to follow me exactly for this part. Keep your right hand on your knee the whole time, okay? Left hand is going to grab for the swing. Stay holding onto the swing, keep holding onto the knee. Pull the knee towards the center line and then rotate it over. That's it. Give it some help.
That hurts.
Yeah. Where does it hurt?
Right here.
Okay. So your foot is going the wrong direction. You have to spread out. So
that's my knee that hurts.
Yeah. Keep the foot flexed. Just watch for this one if it doesn't
Yeah.
feel available to you. So what happened there is, and the same with you, Deborah, you got to keep the knee bent a lot. You don't ever want to straighten the leg in this position where it's compromised. So the knee is in really tight towards the body, and then you roll it over. Yeah. Then we hold on to the back leg loop so that we can pull that in. Yeah. So if we don't stabilize the knees, then they can get twisted. We never want to twist at the knees. They're a hinge. They're not a ball and socket. The hip is supposed to be a ball and socket, and it's been acting like a hinge because of all the linear movement, so we don't have the full range of motion. So we protect the knee by flexing the foot, pulling the knee in, and giving it a little hand to trace the whole movement. Okay?
Can I try that one, Scott?
Please. Yeah. And it's at the ankle, leg loops at the ankle, and try to follow that step by step. So first of all, you have to come into a pigeon pose. Yeah, because the foot has to be in really tight. Once you're in a pigeon pose, you have to keep the foot in nice and tight. Mm-hmm. Keep your hands on your knee and help get the internal rotation. Yes, and then it doesn't slide.
Oh, that was better.
Yeah,
That's as far as it can go.
keep the foot in. The foot's
This is only as far as it can go.
okay, and that's fine. Just hang out there. If your foot goes out wide, that's when the knee is unsafe.
Yeah.
You have to keep your foot in.
This is my injured knee.
Yeah, I understand. So yeah, so now the internal rotation even here is pulling the knee down towards the center line. That means pulling it back to 9 and 3 instead of it flaring out. Pull it towards the center line a little bit more. Deborah, there you go, that's it, good. It kind of likes to flare out to about 9:30 or 3:30 for you. Whatever. Like, hold on, my brain can do it. Can do it backwards, 2:30. Oh, so good. Okay, this time when we turn it back over, just slide it to chillaxin. Let it slide up to the knee, and let's go through chillaxin pose to switch sides. Okay? See if you can run through all of the alignment principles in your head. Tailbone, pubic bone, heart, thoracic, head, shoulders. See if it can become second nature to scan the body from the bottom, stacking all the way up to the top, creating this dynamic tension as well as space. Okay, great. Well, let's do this one while floating. There's lots of different variations, so we're going to do tons of variations today. And we're going to go over the manual so you can see how I lay it out. So if you ever want to go back and review a pose, you're going to see the practice, which is the AYP, the alignment principles, which is the AYRx, and then the variations is the last little colored block, which shows all the different ways that you can get in and out of a pose. Let's push the left leg loop down to the ankle. Stay in chilaxin with the right knee. Pull that foot in for a pigeon. So in pigeon pose, I'm going to ask you to hold on to the foot today. Hold on to the foot and then have the other hand on the knee. So we're going to externally rotate, push the knee down towards the ground, pull the foot in towards your heart. So your foot is over by your leg. I want it over to the heart. Yeah, that heart. That's a different position, right? Yeah. So internal and external, not even going very far. Internal, external. Okay, let's keep the left hand on the knee just for support. Right hand is going to grab for the front leg loop. Left hand is going to rotate the knee in, turn it over, and immediately grab for the other leg loop. See, that's leg loops. Keep pushing the knee down towards the ground. So that's how we get the internal rotation. It doesn't flare out, pulls down. It's like pulling in towards the center line this way, not this way. So from front to back. And then if you do that, your hips will square to the wall and your chest will square to the wall. So your gaze is going to go where your chest goes. Good. So that's why the quad stretches even more. Pull it towards the center line. That's it. Good. So this is why quad stretches are so difficult for people, because they require the internal rotation to do them properly. Otherwise, what we do is we flare out the knee and we're just unevenly stretching the inner part of the thigh and the outer part. And that's why the IT bands are short on people and so tight. So everybody getting a visual of how that all connects to the hip flexor? Great. Excellent, and this will do the job. That's why I call them lounging. Because then we just want to lounge out and spread out in it. And that's amazing, right? That's probably the deepest quad stretch ever people have ever experienced. Okay, to come out of it nice and easy, we're gonna have to lift the knee up. Start to rotate it towards the sky and then slide into chilaxin nice and easy. That was a smooth transition. We want to keep the knees nice and happy and safe. Happy knees during the process. Back to chilaxin. Play with your alignment principles and sway it out from side to side. Notice what's changing, notice what's coming easy, and notice if there's a part of the body that is last to come online. Like, oh yeah, maybe the lats, right? Oh yeah, maybe pressing my head into my hands and lifting up and out. Oh yeah, maybe the pubic bone. Can you guys do a little body scan and just notice which part is still, we won't say difficult, but maybe last?
Head.
The head, yeah. How about you, Deborah? What are you noticing?
My hips.
Your hips, okay, yeah. Good. And just kind of give them a little extra love, right? Give them a little extra attention. Beautiful. Okay, guys. So now we get to play with plugging in and stacking the bones. We're gonna take a little pause and drink some water, and then we're going to come into our forward folds. We're going to play with all these alignment principles in the forward folds. Just mix it up. Then we'll go back and forth, but that's quite a bit behind the heart. So we get the heart break. Yes, really. And we get to slow it down today and really take tiny bites.